Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here to go over the NXT, which took place last night, August 26th, 2025. After starting the show with a recap of all things Heatwave, we kick off NXT with Ricky Saints. Ricky Saints says that he's been here for 6 months and has won the North American title, but the title that he wants most is the one that Oba Femi has. He called out the champion, but instead gets Briggs, who said he got next at Heatwave. And he did say that to the champ himself, so both feel that they are next in line and have proved, that they deserve an opportunity. Briggs says he's tired of outsiders, as none of them compare to him and what he's done for this company. Enter the NXT GM Ava, who then announces that Briggs will take on Ricky Saints to determine the next number one contender for Oba. So just like that, 2 days later, Javon loses, and we are already lining up the next competitor for the ruler. So, yeah, it's just how things move in WWE, I guess. Booker T alluded to that throughout the program. There are no off days, as they say. Next match, we get Blake Monroe going up against Kalani Jordan. And before this match, we see these two stating their case as to why they should be the next challenger for the Women's NXT Championship. And this, of course, after Lola gets her shot at No Mercy. So, haven't even gone through the number one contender on the women's side and already trying to make a case for the next person. But Ava says they can have a match tonight to determine who is the most deserving. And the match itself is going along nicely before Jordan comes down and Blake runs away, just like she did 3 weeks ago. But this time the door, as you can see, chained, locked, probably by Jordan, I would imagine. As that's the door she went out last time. And Blake, being outsmarted this time, and she's forced to go back into the ring. She then takes a split-legged moonsault from Kalani Jordan to get the win. So, kind of as I discussed on the Heatwave reaction video, I really hope that the Blake and Jordan rivalry wasn't quite over, and it does not appear to be, as Jordan obviously not taking that loss kindly, and hopefully this leads to a more aggressive Jordan Grace. The next match is something I'm sure I've seen, but maybe I blocked it out of my memory, and maybe this is a good reason why. We got a blindfold match between Miles Bourne and Lexis King. Of course, this stemmed from their interaction last week when Lexis tried to take away yet another one of Miles' senses with that pepper spray, and Ava, basically to make things even, decided to put them both in a blindfolds match, which, if you think about it, the logic really isn't there. Miles, clearly still being short of sense, still not an equal. If they really wanted to do that, they should have put, a blindfold on just Lexus. I guess that would have made it a little more. The point being here, blindfold matches are just not for me. If they are for you, great. I hope you're happy. But I think they said that it's been 5 years, and they didn't even announce the competitors in them. So hard telling why. Probably a good reason for it. But I'm okay with waiting another 5 years for this. The match itself was pretty short. Lexus rakes the ref's eyes and then takes advantage of that by taking off his mask, then hits Miles with a low blow and gets the win over Miles. So I doubt we're done with the rivalry, of course, but I hope we're done with the gimmick. I will say that. Getting into the next match, we have Ren Sinclair, and she's tagging with someone that we didn't know who it was quite yet. Her objective was to find a tag partner to take on the Collings, Izzy Dame, and Tatum Paxley. So before the match, we see Ren freaking out about taking on 2 women, but Charlie found him a partner in that of Kendall Gray, and he claims that he was impressed with what he saw from her in her first match on NXT, I believe, a few weeks ago. So we get Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray as a team here. This is a pretty good contest, very fast paced, and the Culling pick up another win, continuing their momentum. But more importantly, at least to me, felt like maybe Charlie has found a new member for the NQCC. I personally think Kendall would work great here. We've discussed it previously, but unsure if NQCC is now over, obviously having lost two members in a pretty quick time period, or if they were going to attempt to rebuild. And like I said, I do think Kendall Gray would fit in well here, and I think she has a lot of potential. And then on her own, and then being under Charlie Dempsey would obviously not hurt at all. So I'll be curious to see if that is a permanent thing or if this was just kind of a fill the slot for a night. So we'll have to wait and see. Getting into the second half of NXT, we start off with a match between Ricky Saints and Josh Briggs, the two determine the new number one contender for Oba Femi's NXT Championship. And I kind of hit on it earlier, but it's just crazy. Within 2 days, we moved from Javon and are picking the next opponent already. They kind of hit on Javon. I think they said they just hadn't heard from him since he lost. So for whatever that's worth. Getting into the actual match, though, you could tell both men really wanted this opportunity, and both felt like they deserve it, as mentioned earlier. But a few near falls, but in the end, Ricky Saints is able to fight through the adversity, and now will get an opportunity at the Ruler at No Mercy in Fort Lauderdale, and I believe that's on September 27th. To say I'm looking forward to that match would be a huge understatement. That should be a really good match. And after Saints win, we get another face-to-face with Ricky and Oba, where they exchange some words where clearly, Ricky is not intimidated by the Ruler. And Oba Ricky are then cut off by our new NXT Tag Champions, Dark State, who says they aren't satisfied with the tag titles and are still hungry. They come down to attack Oba and Ricky, and then they are joined by the former tag team champions, Hank and Tank. So possibly another 8-man tag coming from this particular segment. And then later, that was actually confirmed. Ava announced, as Hank and Tank were looking for their rematch for those NXT tag titles, Ava announced that they were all 8 going to be in a tag match next week. So I might have jinxed it a few weeks ago. I said when we had gotten that I think it was the first. It was at least the most recent 8-man tag with Dark State. I said, I don't feel like we have a ton of opportunity to get them in these kind of matches, but it was a fun match. And then a couple weeks later, here we are having it again. So I liked it the first time, so maybe I'll like it the second time. Another thing to discuss, Ava did mention this on Heatwave, but we get the official vignette, if you will, on this episode of NXT. And we see Ava in her office, and basically they are coming to say that the speed titles are coming to NXT, and starting next week, the following members will be competing in a speed tournament. This, of course, on the women's side, we have Candice LeRae from SmackDown, Lainey Reed from NXT, Fabia Paci from AAA, and Zaya Brookside from TNA. And the winner of this tournament will face Sol Ruca for the Speed Championship at No Mercy. So this is a fun announcement. I think I've heard a lot of praise on the Speed format, so I think moving it to NXT certainly can't hurt. And while I love the announcement, I am a bit disappointed because it does feel like the Women's North American Championship, of course, on Sol Ruca's shoulder, as well as the Speed Championship, has kind of been put on the wayside there. And then I think there are just too many women in NXT for us to have a title that's just kind of sitting there. Maybe they'll do something with that before No Mercy, but it feels like the Speed Championship has been mentioned more than anything else. So we'll see how they deal with that. Getting into the next match, we have Tyra May Steele going against Alba Fire. This was another good contest that had Tyra getting a roll-up pin win over Alba. And, of course, the victory is short-lived as Chelsea takes out Tyra after the match. Tavion then tries to stand up to Chelsea, but then is taken out by Ethan Page. So it doesn't appear that we're quite done with this rivalry yet either, and honestly, that's fine with me. and also noted that the crowd is now very much behind the good guys, aka Team USA now. So kind of flipped that dynamic back around, because at the Heatwave PLE, it was very much we were a fan of the bad guys. So take whichever side you want, but it does appear that we are not quite done with that. And perhaps Tavion Heights, the next person to go after Ethan Page. We'll have to wait and see. Then getting into the main event, we have Fatal Influence going up against Lola Vice and Zaruka. They even made shirts for this main event to include Lola Vice, so that's called committing to your main event. Take note, main roster. This was a really fun main event, honestly, and everyone kind of got their own, and the ending was really well done as well. JC gets speared by Zarya. Jasmine then comes in and gets her soul snatched by Soul. And then Fallon gets that back fist from Lola for the win. So it couldn't have gone more perfectly wrong for Fatal Influence if they tried. This was really well done. And earlier in the night, we see Jasmine get double teamed by Fallon and JC, but she did actually stand up for herself and saying that she did deserve a shot at that Speed Championship. And this isn't something you hear me say very often, usually quite the opposite. But I do hope we're not breaking up Fatal Influence anytime soon, because yeah, they are a really entertaining team. But we should wait and see. And but it does feel like everyone, this kind of team has kind of hit rock bottom. The only thing that feels like it's keeping them from a complete meltdown at the moment is that women's NXT title that JC still has hold of for now. Of course, that too is being defended at No Mercy, so we shall see sooner rather than later what's in store for this team. But yeah, overall, this was a really fun episode of NXT, and it looks like we're continuing the Jordan and Blake feud. Kendall Gray possibly joining the NQCC. Ricky Saints becoming the number 1 contender, and of course the announcement of the Speed tournament and the Speed titles coming to NXT. That was exciting as well. Team Canada versus Team USA. I think that's a really fun rivalry as well, and the main event, like I said, really good main event. So NXT for me is firing on all cylinders right now. I'll give this episode of NXT a 9 out of 10. And yeah, it just feels like NXT has everything figured out right now. Short of that Women's North American title, I think they could get that a little more screen time. But other than that, really good episode for me. And with that, this has been our NXT recap, and we will be back shortly with that Clash in Paris predictions video. After that, our next 2 videos will, of course, be the SmackDown recap, and then we will also have those Clash in Paris reactions video, and KP should be back in time for those 2 videos from. So with that, this has been another episode of The Push with Nick and KP, and until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.